Let's bring him back on the show. It's Jacob Carr from Global Sports Regina. Jacob, nice to see you again. Oh, look at that hat. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, I had to rip the birds, but no, thanks for having me back. Pleasure.
No problem. This is curling history. Saskatchewan v. Saskatchewan at the Brier. Mike McEwen couldn't be curling better. 6-0. Kleider 3-2. First Brier finding their way through. So far, a breakdown of each team up until this point, Brier-wise, goes. Let's start with the McEwen rink. Are you surprised they're undefeated?
No. Just looking at their pool, I thought they were probably the class of that pool, other than Alberta Jacobs. And they obviously haven't played them yet. Wisely, the schedule makers, I think, kind of saved that game for the last, because that probably, regardless of you mentioned Kleider, McEwen going up against each other. Even if McEwen is to lose that game, I think that Jacobs game is gonna be for first in the pool. But no, McEwen's been solid. Bit of a scare yesterday against Yukon, I believe it was. That was tighter than maybe I expected, but they've been consistent throughout, and being 6-0 at this point doesn't surprise me at all.
And as far as Kleider goes, I mean, it's so funny. He's so young. What is he, 23, 24, first Brier? And it does take some getting used to. It's a whole different animal once you get there. The best in the world, or the best in the country, are there, and you're playing. So 3-2 to this point. Have they earned that 3-2 record? The 3 wins and the 2 losses?
I believe so, yeah. I think that first one against Nova Scotia and Purcell was kind of a bit of a wake-up call, maybe shake some of the nerves off. Obviously, you mentioned, yeah, he's mid-20s, first Brier ever, the Bright Lights. Didn't play their best game, but they've been increasingly getting better. And then even against Jacobs yesterday, they could have had that game. They kept it tight throughout. I think the first 2 ends were blanked. They just made a few crucial mistakes, and against a quality side like that, you can't do that. So it ended up being a 6-3 final, but they were in that the entire time. And like you said, this is going to be a big one coming up here in about 20 minutes against a really quality side, obviously in McEwen for Saskatchewan bragging rights. But yeah, I think they fared well in their first kind of go around on the national stage.
Jacob Carr from Global Sports Regina is with us on the Western Pizza guest hotline. If McEwen's got a weakness in his game, what is it? And what can be exploited here?
That's a tough question. I mean, they're just so consistent 1 through 4, right? And he can make some incredible shots, but just even watching the games, like McEwen as a skip and that team has been consistent, but I'd say Kleider has probably made the more kind of wow shots, just from covering all the games so far this week. It's just a matter of like who can make the least amount of mistakes. You would think, the grizzled veteran in McEwen, who's been in Manitoba and now he's a SAS skip, would have the advantage there. But if they can, kind of keep it tight like they did against Jacobs and maybe force them into some really tough shots and mistakes, Kleider's definitely got a shot in this game.
Since last year's Brier final in Regina, how many times do you think Mike McEwen has replayed every end in his head to get a different result?
Oh, yeah. I was there live, that final against Gushu. Electric atmosphere. Obviously not the result they wanted, but again, Gushu is kind of the GOAT right now. So, I mean, again, it's the same thing, kind of Kleider going up against McEwen. You want to limit those mistakes. They made a few mistakes in that game. Probably that he's kicking himself. I would assume, it's a year later, he's probably washed it away. But, knock on wood, if that matchup happens again in the final, I'm sure he's learned a few tips and tricks that can maybe get him a better result.
We mentioned Brad Gushu. We'll get to him in a sec. I want to get your thoughts. After Kevin Cooey started 0-3, is there any world or any sports bet in Vegas that you would have put money down on that Kevin Cooey starts a Brier 0-3, whether it was just a combination of a bad draw, bad luck, or whatever, but there you are, a guy that you think is going to be contending throughout the week, and tough start.
No, absolutely. Such a legendary name in the curling world for sure. I bet you would have got a decent return if that was a bet. I probably wouldn't have put any money down on that, just knowing how good he is and how good that team is. But That pool is just stacked with Dunstone, Carruthers, Guju, Cooey. It's yeah. So maybe looking at some of the competition they faced early, I'm not exactly sure how the draw played out early on, but probably not. The wise money wouldn't have been on such a good skip starting 0-3.
When the Scotties Tournament of Hearts was on, we were talking about now that there's 18 teams, having only 6 make the playoffs, to us, was not enough. Where do you sit? With this many teams, should there be more than 6 getting into the playoff round?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, it does seem, right, just a third. You just look at other professional leagues, for example. I guess baseball would be maybe the closest example. 30 odd teams, 30 teams in baseball.
Yeah, 30,
right.
36, 40. I don't know. The season's 2 years long. Yeah,
they just added the wild card, so it's like they just added teams. But yeah, it does seem like a little bit less. I don't know how they would make it work with maybe 8. Maybe you kind of eliminate. It just works out a bit better with 8 rather than having that page 3, 4 and page 1, 2. They could probably make it work, but no, I see your point for sure. With 6 out of 18 being seems like a little on the low side.
It's funny watching with my kids, and they're young curlers, 9 and 13, but they're seeing some empty seats in the stands, and they're going, Dad, why wouldn't every game be sold out, especially the night ones, where it is kind of weird, because even like in the Canada game they were showing last night, they're like, yeah, it is. Is that, do you think that's just a thing? Are those people just in the patch partying? But it is kind of weird to see empty seats at a Brier.
No, 100% with you on that one. I mean, a lot of logistics could play into it, I guess. Maybe the market they're in. Like you say, people maybe having a few beers at the patch, what games are on. But yeah, I mean, I only have attended one in person, obviously, last year, and the place was packed, especially obviously for the Saskatchewan games, home team. So that's all I really have to go off of. But yeah, Prospera Place, obviously a nice arena, but it could be a number of varying factors that kind of lead to those empty seats on the TSN cameras.
I get it. If it's the Monday morning 9 a.m. draw, that's fine. But when it's a primetime game, you know, at the 7:30 draw, which you'd think would be the most attended if there's 3 draws in a day, it would be that one. All right. Last question. The Scotties, and I know there's a process, should Rachel Holman automatically be the Canadian team to represent for the Olympics next year? Should she have to go through the playoffs, or should we just anoint her now?
I mean, I guess there's due process for a reason, right? You got to kind of earn your spot and your stripes. But I mean, with just the legendary run she's on, it's almost like you could kind of just give it to her, like, hey, you've proven how many odd years in a row now that you're the best in this country, so the spot is yours. But I guess, yeah, due process is in place for a reason.
Yeah. You follow the Cougars quite closely in the UofR. So last week, the news came out that Todd Johnson, head coach of the men's hockey team, and the university have mutually decided to part ways. Your initial reaction when you saw the press release?
Bit of a mixed bag, I guess. Not, I guess, shocked in a sense, but also a bit surprised just with, I believe it was a 12-year tenure for Coach Johnson there. Has been a bit of a struggling team recently, struggling to put some wins together, even kind of sniff the playoffs in the last couple seasons. And obviously a lot of factors can play into that. But yeah, I mean, maybe it's, we kind of, texted off camera. I was just saying, I think maybe the brass at UofR are just looking to infuse a new voice and maybe some new blood into that locker room in order to kind of build that program back up to where they want to be.
Is it a recruiting thing, UofR? I mean, it's a pretty good destination. Got a pretty good, I mean, it's not the U of A as far as hockey history goes, but it's not like this is a starter school that has got no, history behind their program. Do they have a tough time attracting top end players from Junior A and from the Dub?
I mean, it definitely could play into it. Just even looking at kind of the upper echelon has been pretty consistent in terms of at least the men's league. You've got MRU, UBC, U of S is always kind of right in the mix there. I think, our Saskatoon reporter was just reporting on it. They're going qualify for nationals. So, that could definitely be playing a factor. I'm not sure why that is. I think UofR is a great school. Obviously, I graduated Chase School from there. So, but maybe there's like certain niche programs that other schools can offer that we can't. So maybe that's a bit of an issue.
So let's pretend you're the chancellor, the head of sports, and the HR department. Who are you hiring to run the U of R men's hockey team? Is it somebody that is an up-and-coming junior coach? Is it somebody that has pro or maybe minor pro experience, all college? Like, what in your mind is ticks all the boxes to be the next coach of the men's Cougars?
I do like the first thing you mentioned there, maybe an up-and-coming junior guy. Like I said, kind of infusing maybe a bit of a newer age voice, some fresh blood that can really relate with these, 20 to however old, the window is in university. Sorry, I'm so far removed. I'm 33 now. I was a university athlete, but that was way back in the day. So, I do like that option for them. I think it's just a matter of kind of connecting with those players. And then someone who can really hit the recruiting trail and get some of these quality junior A and like dub players to commit to this team and build it back up to a perennial playoff contender.
I mean, there are only so many spots on the U of S Husky roster or the Alberta Golden Bears or Mount Royal Cougars. There's good hockey players that are not going to be on there. Let's say if it is a first choice where they're going to want to go somewhere. And do you want to be on the fourth line on the Huskies or the Alberta Golden Bears? Or do you want to be a second or a first liner maybe at a school like Regina where you're going to get more ice time and an opportunity? That's probably a decision that a lot of these guys have to weigh. Because now, and we've seen this, look at the Aiden Hill, Logan Thompson thing. Playing CIS hockey does not mean the end of your hockey career. There is still life after this, and you can still get to the higher levels if you aspire to. So we'll see. Jacob Carr from Global Sports is on with this Western Pizza Guest Hotline. The last time we had you on, it was a couple days before the Super Bowl. And you gave us your safe pick, I'm in broadcasting, I got to give a pick, but then you gave us your passion pick, your Philadelphia Eagles. And you got the hat on, they win the Super Bowl. Take us through that game. Were you nervous leading up? What about when it's 17-0? The Cooper DeJean. Let's go to the Cooper DeJean interception for a touchdown. What's your confidence level at that point?
Okay, I'll just preface by saying, like, me and one of my closest buddies who also works in journalism field, we're about the most pessimistic Eagles fans, just because I've been a fan since like 2000. I've seen everything. The NFC Championships, the 2002 against the Bucs, where they just got absolutely gobsmacked. Final game at the Link, or the old vet. And so even I'll take it back to 2017 Super Bowl. Like, they win, Nick Foles beat the GOAT and Tom Brady. I think I was happy for about 5 minutes, and I was like, okay, better go to work next day. This one was a bit different because it's the Chiefs. They're going for the three-peat. Talking a lot of smack, like their fans, at least on social media. But to go back to Cooper DeJean, that boosted my confidence by, I'd say, about 10%, because they're up 10-0. The Chiefs always come back from 10-point deficits. But then it was 17. Patrick Mahomes was struggling heavily. I think I finally kind of breathed a sigh of relief once the fourth quarter hit and it was 34-0 or whatever it was. They benched the starters because it's Mahomes, it's the Chiefs, and until they're done and dead, even 24-0 at half, we've seen them come back against the Texans from that deficit. So, but yeah, it was pretty awesome, wire to wire, just a beat down. It was nice.
I think a lot of us, including Chiefs fans and players, were like, okay, well, the comeback is going to kick in any time now, but it just never did. And then afterwards, the Travis Kelce, there's all of that. So now the economy of football is kicking in. Oh, first, does Howie Roseman deserve the MVP for getting hit in the forehead during the Super Bowl parade with a beer can, getting the giant gash on his head, but keeps on partying and then makes a speech after. What a guy. Like, if that's our leader, how can you not follow?
Absolutely, yeah. And I'll be the first to admit, like, we go back to the years where they passed over DK for, I think, Rager. Maybe I'm getting them, or Sega-Whiteside, sorry. And then they passed over Jettis for Rager. And I was like, this is the worst GM in football. But the last like 4 years, he's nailed every draft. They trade for AJ Brown. Yeah, so I saw that clip in the parade and had a good chuckle. But he's been killing it the last 4 or 5 years, and obviously Saquon speaks for itself. And obviously they just extended him again. So
yeah. So if you missed the news earlier today, Saquon Barkley got extended 2 years, around just shy of $42 million, earned every penny. But the economy of football is that Darius Slay, who was a key in that defense, because there's only so much money to go around, gets released. I would be surprised if he's not signed within the couple days, because that's a prime free agent now on the market who was dominant in the Philly defense. And when you see big names like that let go, you realize, like, yeah, it's a great game and a terrible business.
Absolutely, yeah. Just 100% a cap casualty. He was a team captain these last few years, came over from Detroit a few years back, and really bought into the the Philly way of life. Obviously, Philly fans, especially in Philly, are pretty brutal, pretty ruthless. Not afraid to speak their mind, but he weathered the storm and was a huge part of that team last year. Got rid of James Bradbury too. Obviously, he wasn't a factor last year, but in their previous Super Bowl that lost to the Chiefs, obviously that controversial holding call, but he was great that year. So, we'll see. It's just the crappy part of the business, especially when you win a Super Bowl. Guys want to get paid, and there's going to be cap casualties. So, it is what it is.
Do you think the circus that is the Las Vegas Raiders under Pete Carroll and Tom Brady can restore themselves just in the next season to some form of credibility? Now, there is talk maybe Aaron Rodgers ends up there as their quarterback for a 1 year and done. To me, Vegas is the most interesting story because the Cowboys, everybody beats them to death. I'm intrigued by Vegas because they're not afraid to go spend the money and try new things, where Dallas just won't try new things. But what do you think about the Raiders? Can they put it together?
I'd say in a year, that's probably a bit of a long shot. I know Pete Carroll said in the presser, we're not, this is no 5-year plan. He's no spring chicken. He's in his 70s, I believe. So he wants to win now. And of course they do. Every organization does. But I think that's going to be a bit of a tall task unless they absolutely nail the draft. I just saw the news came down that Crosby re-signed. He's the richest non-QB now. So good on them for locking him up because he's, top 3 edge rusher in the NFL. But yeah, the Aaron Rodgers thing that makes zero sense to me. They're not a quarterback away from contending for a Super Bowl. They have holes everywhere. So we'll see. Pete Carroll's a great coach. I thought he did great in Seattle. And Tom Brady will obviously bring a lot of wisdom. But as far as 1 year, I think they're still going to be last in that division.
The NFL Combine last week, word coming out that Shedeur Sanders, according to some who interviewed him, is coming across as arrogant, almost complacent at times. As a quarterback, do you need to have arrogance? Or is this your Deion Sanders kid? And this is, I don't know, because, you kind of need that if you're going to be leading a football team, right? I don't know. You played the game. Do you want a quarterback that knows he's going to go score, or is like, oh, geez, I don't know, guys. Anybody got any good ideas? Because I'm fresh out.
No, I 100% kind of lean towards your latter point there. The moment I heard this, it's like I took a bit with a grain of salt, and I'm like, who are you? Look at who you're looking at. This is the kid of Deion Sanders. You expect him to be a mouse? Like, he's been this way his whole career, and he played for his dad at Colorado. Like, I mean, what did you expect? But you definitely 100% need some of that as a quarterback. You can't be, timid, shy. You got to be able to command a huddle, and you got to have a lot of swagger. Like, use Jalen Hurts as an example. He's very he chooses his words carefully, and but there's no mistaking him as a leader and a winner. And even showed some emotion in that NFC Championship game. I think it was an route touchdown to AJ Brown. Let a little F-bomb go. Like in the biggest moments, he showed up, and he talked to anyone on that Eagles team. Like they'll 100% ride or die with that guy. So you need that as a quarterback. It's the kind of the highest leverage position in sports, I would say.
Who do you think will get drafted higher? We'll wrap on this. Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders? Oh,
Cam, 100%. Just looking at maybe if someone else trades out of those top picks, but this is me just looking at them on tape playing Miami, Colorado, the competition they played. I think Cam's game is better suited all around to the NFL. But regardless, I think NFL scouts are going to put Cam over Shedeur. I don't know where Shedeur is going to go, honestly, if he's going to be a lottery pick or if the Abdul Carters and those other kind of linemen. And even running backs, I know they don't go in round one, but Genty might be a lottery pick. So I'm more kind of interested in Shedeur, where he goes. I think Cam's going to be one of those top 3 picks for one of those quarterback hungry squads.
Some people even said that Sanders could even fall to the second round. We'll see. All right, I lied. We're going to wrap on this because we're seconds away from the first rock being thrown. Clyde or McEwen, a prediction who wins from Jacob Carr, Global Sports Regina, before we sign off and say, let's go watch some curling. Who wins this afternoon?
Well, do you need a score prediction or just a winner?
Give us both. I mean, don't leave us hanging. You can't, we all want to see, we want yes and why. Okay.
Shoot. You know what? I'm going to take Clyder in an upset.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm just basing it off, you're kind of only as good as your last game. Like I said, McEwen's been very consistent and very good, but I wouldn't say great. They're not playing their best curling right now. Bit of a scare last night against UConn. Clyder played Jacobs well, and then beat PEI. I think it was PEI pretty soundly. So I think they're a bit of the hotter team right now. They've got a bit more to play for. Not that, being 7-0 on top of the Pops isn't enough to play for, but I think they're going to be more desperate. So they're going to win a close one. Give me 7-6 Clyder.
I was going to go 6-4 McEwen. So 7-6 Clyder. I'm going 6-4 McEwen. Jacob Carr, thanks for coming on. Have a great show tonight yourself. And we'll talk to you again.
Terrible, please don't run it again.
Oh, trust me. One thing we've come to know about this show, if you do screw up or say something dumb, it gets run again and again and again and again. And that's even when you're not on the show, it gets mentioned while you're not even here, because that's kind of who we are behind the scenes.
Yeah, all good. Thanks again for having me, though.